My next question is to you, Dr. L'Espérance, and thank you as well. I want to ask you about the protection of medical practitioners in Quebec on grounds of conscience. We've heard a lot about that here. Some have suggested we need to clarify it in this federal law. Maître Ménard told us that was in provincial competence from a matter of legal perspective, but of course your perspective is medical. I want to ask if there's been any problems with conscience, number one, in the protection of doctors, and number two, you made a distinction between an individu and an organisation, and so I presume that you're saying that institutions should not be allowed to have conscience protections, but individuals. Do I understand you correctly?
Absolutely. First question, no, there's no problem in Quebec with the avec l'objection de conscience.
With conscientious objections?
Whatever, quelles que soient les raisons pour...
No matter what the reasons for the objection based on conscience, it's normal. The obligation of Quebec is this: a doctor, a medical practitioner who refuses medical assistance in dying has to refer the patient to his association so that they can find a doctor who will do so for the patient. It's exactly the same problem as was the case with abortion, as is the case as well with abortion. Now, the institution cannot have a conscience nor a conscientious objection. If you're looking at a private hospital, a Catholic hospital, a Muslim hospital, anything, that would be totally private in imposing the rules, certain real rules. But if it is a public institute, they would have to bend to the will of the person. But our goal is to provide care for persons, and medical assistance in dying is the ultimately last compassionate act of care. What has upset me and has concerned me since the very beginning of this discussion is very often the patient is forgotten. The dignity of the individual is important, their state of their mind, their soul. So this is what we must seek to do, is to help this individual. It's all well and good to talk about other issues from a medical standpoint, but we think of the patient.
Because the Supreme Court said in Carter that that individual medical practitioners on rights of conscience need not perform the service, and we're trying to clarify whether the bill needs that protection. But I just want to say, Dr. L'Espérance, I agree entirely with you. Institutions are different than individuals, and taking money at the same time as denying people constitutional rights is really quite unthinkable.
Si vous permettez, je laisse les juristes décider.
I'll let the legal experts decide whether or not there should be an amendment to the criminal code or not. But to my mind, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think it's part of the criminal code, but I think that this is part of the overall legal framework.